We are 16 days from the start of NFL free agency and 59 days away from the first round of the NFL draft, and the Dallas Cowboys will hope to continue their recent track record of success. They've been able to find players on each day of the draft over the last few years. No longer armed with a first-round pick after sending it to Oakland for Amari Cooper, the Cowboys will have to continue to that kind of success throughout the draft. Mocking players is a difficult exercise, even when attempting to place a player with a team that has a first-round pick. Trying to project players in the second round and later is dang near impossible. These mock drafts do serve a purpose, even this early, in that they give us an indication of the players that could be available to the Dallas Cowboys around the time they'll be drafting. There's a nice variety of players and positions being mocked to the Dallas Cowboys in the last week, so let's take a look. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Florida. Last week, Rick Ciarratella of Football Maven released a 2-round mock draft and sent the Dallas Cowboys Florida safety Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and had this to say: "The safety spot may be the position in biggest need of an upgrade on the Cowboys roster. That's certainly debatable, as the Dallas Cowboys could also use a pass-rushing 3-technique defensive tackle, a tight end, and a slot receiver, but safety is a position the Dallas Cowboys will be actively pursuing, but more than likely in free agency." Gardner-Johnson recorded 9 interceptions, 4 sacks, and 15.5 tackles for loss in 33 games for the Gators. He'd certainly fill a need in this a deep draft at safety, so it's not unlikely that the Dallas Cowboys could use the 58th pick in the draft to go this direction. Austin Bryant, at Clemson. Last time we did this piece, Ben Standard from NBC Sports sent the Dallas Cowboys Old Dominion defensive end O'Shane Ximines, and he keeps the edge theme going this week with the Cowboys selecting Clemson defensive end Austin Bryant in his latest 2-round mock draft. The rationale didn't change much, as he cites the impending free agency of DeMarcus Lawrence and David Irving, but it's an absolute certainty that Lawrence comes back. It's not improbable that the Dallas Cowboys take an edge rusher at 58, but at the moment it seems unlikely with the return of Lawrence and the on- and off-field development of Randy Gregory. Bryant would be a good get though, as he recorded 8.5 sacks for the Clemson Tigers on a defense with several standout players. 2018 was the second season in a row that Bryant recorded 8.5 sacks, so he has the production and pedigree to potentially be a productive player in the NFL. Draymond Jones, DL, Ohio State. Mike Tagliere from FantasyPros.com keeps the defensive line theme top of mind as he sends the Dallas Cowboys defensive lineman Draymond Jones from Ohio State University. It's no secret that the Dallas Cowboys need to add defensive line help along the interior, but there's not telling where they'll get those reinforcements from. In the Rod Marinelli era at defensive coordinator, the Dallas Cowboys have opted not to spend a draft pick on a defensive tackle in the first 2 rounds and generally hunt the bargain bin. Could this be the year that the Cowboys allocate a premium pick for defensive tackle? Tagliere thinks so. Here's what he had to say on Jones. After overlooking the tackle position last year, the Cowboys must find one in this year's draft now that David Irving is headed to free agency. Jones is thin for a defensive tackle, but he has a good motor because of it. He's a much better pass rusher than run stuffer, as his swim move to get inside the offensive lineman is rather impressive. He will need to add weight for the next level. Mike Tagliere at FantasyPros.com. 2018 was by far his most productive season for the Buckeyes when he recorded 8.5 sacks, 13 tackles for loss and 43 tackles. Sounds like the type of player that Marinelli likes on the inside, long and lean. At 6'3", 286, he could be the penetrating 3T that the Cowboys have been looking for. Caden Smith, Stanford. Luke Easterling, over at the Draft Wire, put together a 4-round mock draft with trades that you'll want to check out. Just like last time we did this piece, Easterling continues to give the Dallas Cowboys Stanford tight end Caden Smith. It's certainly a selection that meets a need with the Cowboys heading into free agency with only Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz at the position, but does it make the most sense to select a tight end at 58? The Cowboys have liked Jarwin for the last couple of years, and he started to show out toward the end of the season, and with as deep as group as 2019 provides at the tight end position, solidifying tight end could be something the Dallas Cowboys could wait to do. Easterling's not the only one to like Smith to the Cowboys at 58, as Eddie Brown of the San Diego Tribune also sent Smith to Dallas at 58. Isaiah Buggs, DL, Alabama. A new name to pop up this time around his Alabama defensive tackle Isaiah Buggs, who is being mocked to the Dallas Cowboys in Fansided.com draft analyst Randy Gertzi's latest mock draft. Alabama players are found all over the league, and another gets selected here as the Dallas Cowboys take Isaiah Buggs. A potential 3 technique. Dallas needs someone who can replace David Irving, who simply can't get on the field. He doesn't get the hype that some of his teammates do, but Buggs had 9.5 sacks this past year and should continue to provide interior pressure at the next level. While Jason Garrett seems to have an affinity for Nick Saban, the Dallas Cowboys haven't drafted an Alabama player during Garrett's 9 drafts with the Dallas Cowboys. Buggs fits a need for reinforcements on the Cowboys' interior, but as we discussed earlier, will the Cowboys use a premium pick on a defensive tackle? It would certainly be a departure from the norm. Jace Sternberger, Texas A. Here's what Martin had to say. At 6 feet 4 inches, 250 pounds, Sternberger has the size the Cowboys look for in their starting tight ends. His biggest asset right now is his natural receiving ability and how dangerous he is after the catch. He runs and moves like a big receiver. He's decent as an inline blocker as well, but it's an area of his game that is still improving. Ryan Martin, InsideTheStar.com. Sternberger averaged 17.3 yards per reception for the Aggies while hauling in 48 passes for 832 yards and 10 touchdowns. Those are explosive numbers for a tight end in college football. In Mark Andrews' final season at the University of Oklahoma, he caught 62 passes for 952 yards and 8 touchdowns, averaging 15.3 yards per reception. In a better offense with a better quarterback, it's certainly possible Sternberger puts up Andrews-like production last season. Make sure you check out the rest of his mock to see who the Dallas Cowboys could take with their other 5 picks in the 2019 NFL Draft. It will be interesting to see if these mock projections hold up over the next couple of months, with Pro Days and the NFL Scouting Combine coming soon. How the Dallas Cowboys allocate pick number 58 is anyone's guess at this point, and will remain so until we get into the 50s of the NFL Draft. To know these players, because they'll likely be in the range of where the Cowboys will be picking come draft day. Last week, we discussed Kentucky cornerback Lonnie Johnson Jr. and his potential fit with the Cowboys' defense. The idea was that while many of his coverage skills are raw and need substantial development, his height, weight, length fit exactly what Chris Richard tends to look for. Notre Dame's Julian Love is almost the opposite of this. The 5 feet 11 inches, 190-pound cornerback is far from the long and strong prototype which may catch Richard's eye, but his man coverage skills are as refined as you'd hope for in a day 2-3 pick. The player Julian Love put up outstanding numbers while in Notre Dame, capping it all off with a 63 tackle, 3 for loss, 16 pass deflection, 1 interception 2018 season. The pass deflection production is a good indication of what Love's ball skills are like, with good timing and reaction skills when the ball is put on him. Love's best trait is his man coverage, specifically his off-coverage technique. He is excellent at playing off the receiver, and then breaking forward to contest the catch with excellent timing. This reliance on timing could result in some pass interference calls at times if he arrives too early, though. Love has good speed as well, and can carry receivers vertically in man coverage as well as break with them suddenly to stay in good position. Love is a good tackler, especially for a cornerback. Sometimes he will get sloppy in his technique in the open field, diving at the legs of the ball carrier, but more often than not he wraps up and is reliable as a tackler on the outside. He's not exactly a top-tier run support cornerback, but he's certainly not a liability either. What would worry me most about drafting Julian Love are his measurables, though we don't know what they are officially just yet. I'm really interested to see what his arm length is at the combine, as well as what he runs in the 40. Doesn't appear to have any athletic trait which jumps off the page, though he is good enough in those categories to remain solid on the field. A good combine performance would likely propel him well out of the Cowboys' range. The fit I sought out to watch prospects which the Dallas Cowboys could have a chance of drafting in the second round. But the more I watched Julian Love, the more I thought he must be a top 5 to 6 cornerback in this draft class. And if that's the case, they probably won't have a chance to make him a Dallas Cowboy anyway. With that being said, Love is going to be a starting cornerback in the NFL. And he will be that just about immediately. I believe he will be better on the outside than in the slot, making him an attractive prospect for Dallas depending on how they plan to handle Byron Jones and Anthony Brown's contract situations next offseason. Though he doesn't have the body type to fit what Chris Richard tends to covet, he is certainly a solid man-cover corner who will make his money in that type of scheme. I wouldn't ask him to drop in cover 3 often at all. In fact, I don't want him playing much zone coverage whatsoever. But as a man corner, Julian Love will find himself taken within the first 2 rounds of the NFL Draft. Name: Jalen Hurd. Position: wide receiver. School: Baylor Conference. Big 12 class: senior jersey, no. 5 recruitment rating: 4-star HT, 6 feet 4 inches WT, 229 DOB, January 23, 96. Highlights from Jalen Hurd senior season at Baylor. Baylor WR. Jalen Hurd Sr. 6, 5,230 pounds. All rights go to the Baylor University, ESPN, Fox Sports, Baylor Athletics, Universal Music Group, the Big 7 Conference, the Big 7 Media Network, and the NCAA. Before we get to know Jalen Hurd the player, I thought it would be a good idea to tell you a little bit about his background. Not only was he a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, but he was also considered a top running back prospect, potential first-rounder, during his time at Tennessee. Despite being a highly touted RB prospect, he thought it was in his best interest to transform himself into a wide receiver in order to prolong his career. That was the driving force behind him transferring to Baylor. True to his word, he reinvented himself from a 6 feet 4 inches, 240-pound RB to a 6 feet 4 inches, 229-pound WR, turning him into one of the more intriguing prospects in the entire 2019 draft class. Pros: putting aside everything he brings to the table as a running back, Jalen Hurd actually checks all of the boxes for what NFL teams look for in a prototypical wide receiver. He has the desired size, speed, athleticism, and natural receiving ability to become a starter in the league. Even though he basically has just 1 year of experience at WR, you can really see the work he's put in to not only transform his body, but learn the nuances of his new position. I think that's a testament to his hard work and dedication. He is a natural hands catcher and easily snatches the ball out of the air with his 10 1/8 inch hands. Has a large catch radius and has shown the ability to high point the ball in contested catch situations or go down low to secure the catch. Operated mostly out of the slot at Baylor, but has the ability to play on the outside as well. Shows loose hips and good change of direction ability on film, although he's never going to be considered a quick twitch athlete due to his size. Is at his most dangerous after the catch when he immediately goes from WR to RB. More slippery than you'd imagine for a player his size. Tracks the ball well down the field and is fearless carrying his routes across the middle. His strength and the length make him a formidable blocker as well. Cons: as you would imagine, the majority of Jalen Hurd's cons are mostly due to the fact that he's new to the wide receiver position. A clean release off the line of scrimmage, otherwise, he is too easily thrown off of his route. He will likely have to play out the slot until he is able to learn how to beat press coverage at the next level. With time, that should improve though, because he has the strength and the length to succeed. Hurt is still really raw as far as his football IQ and route running is concerned at his new position. Needs to become more detail-oriented in regards to his stance, release, stem adjustments, and ability to read coverage. Shows pretty good footwork to get in and out of his breaks, but isn't what you would describe as springy. He is a long strider who can eat up a lot of ground quickly though. Cowboys fit. The Dallas Cowboys could be looking for someone to replace Cole Beasley's production on those short to intermediate routes. This is where Jalen Hurts will be the most effective until he can fine-tune some of the raw aspects of his game. He can be a mismatch player against linebackers, safeties, and nickel cornerbacks as a rookie due to his mere size and athleticism. Not only would he provide some much-needed size and depth to the wide receiver position, but he could also contribute as a running back from time to time. Think of how the New England Patriots use Cordarrelle Patterson as both a WR and RB. That could free up an extra roster spot that would have gone to a backup RB. He hasn't contributed a lot on special teams, but his background as a running back and his slipperiness in the open field could be useful as a punt and kick returner. Overall, Jalen Hurts is an intriguing prospect for the Dallas Cowboys. He's just starting to scratch the surface of his potential as a wide receiver, but in a year or two could be one of the better playmakers to come out of this draft class. This is someone the Cowboys will more than likely have participating at Dallas Day for local prospects, which should put him on their radar if he isn't already. The NFL Scouting Combine is only a few days away as on-field workouts will begin on Friday, March 1st. It's a special event for many draft fans and a time to discover great athletes and raw ability. It's also an important opportunity for prospects to make their stock go way up, and sometimes watch it plummet. Personally, what I enjoy the most about the Combine is looking out for some relatively unknown names and see what they can do. A few weeks ago, NFL.com analysts Daniel Jeremiah and Lance Zierlein published an article on which player each team should be watching when the Combine kicks off. For the Dallas Cowboys, the name listed was defensive lineman L.J. Collier. During his time in college football, Collier lined up in a lot of positions for the TCU Horned Frogs. His production in 2018 was pretty solid, racking up 11.5 tackles for loss, 4 deflected passes and 6 sacks. He did this playing mainly as an edge defender, but if the Dallas Cowboys consider him at some point in the NFL draft, they should probably look at him as a defensive tackle. Weighing in at 280 pounds, this is a legit way of looking at Collier. He's got the size and has played in the interior before. When Rod Marinelli was in Chicago, he managed to handle Henry Milton's transition from edge rusher to defensive tackle. Transitioning Collier from one position to the other could be an interesting possibility for the Cowboys. Collier still has a long way to go and he shouldn't be seen as a potential starter in the NFL. However, he could become an important rotational player at defensive tackle. I would be interested in his value as a pass rusher in obvious passing downs, especially considering his impressive motor and just how competitive he is as a player. Collier will have to put on an impressive showing at the NFL Scouting Combine if he wants to climb those rankings, though. Many scouts are concerned about his burst and flexibility, and for good reason. Watching the film, he's not what you want in a pass rusher. I believe he wouldn't have a good time playing on the edge on Sundays. He'll have a chance to change some minds in Indianapolis. I'd expect Collier to be drafted in Day 3 of the 2019 NFL Draft. I'm convinced that as a late 4th-round pick he'd be able to contribute for some NFL team as a rotational player. For the Dallas Cowboys, defensive tackle is one of the most pressing needs heading into next season. A need that should be addressed before the 4th round but could still be benefited from a player like Collier.